Hey everyone, welcome to another Punk Perspectives. Today, I got a very awesome one from one of the writer-director from one of the movies that changed my life. I got James Merendino. Hey, thank
Hi,
you for being here.
thanks for having me.
Um, yeah, today I like to always talk about just like one song an episode. And today I want to talk about the song Kiss Me Deadly by Generation X
Yeah.
because first time I heard it, introduced to the band even, was through your movie growing up. So I guess first iotas, I just have to ask, with like even your writing style, did you always have the envision of how that ending would be for the movie first, or I guess how do you write your stories typically?
Well, Kiss Me Deadly, so that's the song you're talking about, is originally that scene where they flash back to the time when the D&D stuff originally wasn't I have to approve this. Okay. Originally wasn't uh it wasn't in the script. A producer suggested that when we were out in Salt Lake, he said, like, it'd be nice to see where all this started. So then I said, okay. And Peter Ward was the guy, and he suggested I write something. And I said, well, it kind of started as in a basement when they were playing D&D. So I wrote all that, and because that's when he plays him that song by Gen X. Then through a friend, I met Durwood. So he was there. He was on set. He was he's the guitarist for Generation X, and so he was. I asked them, could I use the song, and then we had to pay some money for the publishing side of it. But he also came and wrote some other songs for the movie and stuff, and has been a friend. I still friends with the guy. So yeah, so that's how it ended up in the movie. I just thought like I when I was a kid, we liked that album, that band, Generation X, like with Billy Idol's first band. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
kick ass. So, I guess two questions on that. So that scene, well, so first of all, I guess you're kind of like Steve-O in a way, right? I imagine, is that kind of the writing? Like, is it kind of
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay? And so is that kind of how your introduction to punk was in the basement playing DDD? Like that's
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I mean, like, well, well, to be if I'm gonna get it right, actually, I mean, I was definitely playing D&D at one point, right, and then I never stopped, but I was like, long hair, listening to Rush, playing Dungeons and Dragons. Then we went to Hawaii. I guess my family took a vacation to Hawaii, and I met this British guy. I guess I was 15 or 14, and I met this British guy in the hotel lobby. This kid who
Mhm.
was really into like all the punk bands. It was like this is in like mid 80s, and he was into like Exploited, but he also liked all like Fun Boy 3, and he liked the Specials, and he was like and he showed me all this music I'd never heard. So this kid in England. So then when I got back and we went back to school, I saw all my friends, and a few of them had also that summer gotten into all that different because in Salt Lake City, all the people I was going to Catholic school, all the people in my school, they all listened to like rock. And I was one of them. I played guitar. I was pretty good at guitar. They liked that I could play Van Halen songs and stuff like that. But that year, my couple friends of mine and myself, Eddie, John, and me, we started listening to different music, and it was punk and it was ska and stuff like that, and we cut our hair, and that's when we started getting a lot of shit in high school. Like everyone started giving us a hard time because we stopped being the rockers hated us. They were mad at us. So that but we liked the different stuff, whatever. So that's what happened. Though I mean, I was aware of like Dead Kennedys before that and Circle Jerks and all those bands, but like I didn't start listening until that year.
Okay, that trip. And so what year was that? Like mid '80s?
Yeah,
Okay,
I guess it was like 83, 84, 83. No, 84.
nice. Okay, okay. Um, and so, and if I heard you right too, so when you first wrote it, you didn't have the initial idea for that moment with Bob and stuff doing the flashback. The flashback was
No, I added that later, but I mean, I think I probably still had every intention of using "Kiss Me Deadly" at the end when he was giving that his final monologue.
Mhm.
But instead, like because like it was going to be, I think the song was going to start at the funeral, and then it was going to come down, and he was going to. That was what I was thinking when I wrote it. But then I added that new scene. So at the funeral, I start the Rush song because he's listening to Rush to get into that moment that's the flashback. And then he stops Rush and he takes the tape out and he puts in Gen X and he says it's new. And, so that. And then that song continues on to the end of the movie. And then when the movie ends, there's a thing about like credits. So like credit songs are more expensive than regular songs. Like
Okay.
songs go over your set. You have to pay like three times, four times as much for a song that goes over credits than you do for a song that's just in the movie, which I don't understand why, because
Mhm.
people leave the theater or during credits. So so I just I wanted the Gen X song to just play right through, but that was going to cost way too much. So we convinced Dead Kennedys to let us use "Kill the Poor." So we stopped the that Gen X song and then go right into "Kill the Poor" for the credit sequence.
Okay. So if money wasn't like a thing, you would have just played the Gen X on
I would have
out.
kept going. Yeah,
Okay. That's really cool to know. And you always did have an idea to put the Gen X, Kiss Me Deadly somewhere in the movie.
it
Like,
was going to be at the end. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Man, so when you were writing the movie, how much of the soundtrack was in your head? And I know this might be redundant, and thank you so much also for this Only Posers Die doc coming out and stuff too. Like I'm so excited for that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We're still working on that. But we're deep into it. We got a lot more to shoot. We're going to Connecticut next.
Okay.
No, Michigan. I'm sorry. What am I talking about? We're going to Massachusetts next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
to interview people and to get the scene there because we started in Utah. Now we're going to go there, and then we're going to go to Columbus, Ohio. Then we got to like I want to talk to everybody that
Mhm.
might be interested, around the country, like that might be into that.
I mean, it's so awesome. It's still one that I can. I remember when I bought it when we first saw it, like it really hit my life. And like it's funny, I was just talking to my friend the other day about that this ending, why I think it was so impactful, especially being like a punk teenager, or whatever. Like this is one of the few endings I actually cried on, man, because Bob's not supposed to die, stuff like that. Like I saw like Schindler's List, these other movies, but I was just in my head, just like this is like reality, it's sad. But this was like touched so close to home, and I
Yeah,
grew up in Tucson, Arizona, so it felt, I think, a lot of like kind of what the movie kind of portrayed. Like for the most part, there's not too many punks in the scene, and
yeah.
kind of nerdy, anyways. The Click for whatever reason, like whether it's Dungeons and
When
Dragons
was
or now
this?
they're playing. So.
When it was the 90s?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For me, no, for me, when I first saw it, was when I was probably like 14 or so. So this would have been like 02, 03 when I finally got around to first seeing it. So,
Right. Okay.
you know.
Wow. All right. So you were going to ask a question. What were you asking me? You were asking me about
Oh yeah. So how much of it did you do the soundtrack? So when you were writing it, did you have like a good soundtrack already in your head when you wrote it?
some of it. Yeah. Some of it's in the script. Like I say, cue sex and violence. So that song was on there. And then um there's songs I didn't get, and I'm just looking at the old rough cut. There was like "Kick Out the Jams" by MC5 was in there. We
Okay.
also and then we couldn't get it, I guess. And there was a Dead Milkman song, "You'll Dance to Anything," that was supposed to go over the mall. I just thought it was
Oh,
perfect, like to
that would
go.
have been perfect. Dead Milkman,
But
yeah.
I had written that in originally, but somehow we couldn't track down those guys. So and I forget what we used. Well, we used "I Love Living in the City," I think. So anyway, it worked out.
Yeah.
But so like, but otherwise, like, so it was like 60/40. 60 I had planned, 40% I had to replace songs.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting getting into that. And so now this one might be out there. People already may know as well, but was there a real friend like Bob? and how much of that part is like true to your real life?
Yes, Bob is an amalgamation of a few people, and then embellished a bit. But like largely, it's this guy Chris Williams who didn't die. He became a priest, Episcopalian priest.
Huh.
But like he's the guy. Chris Williams, he actually did in fact punch a mirror, and he was getting into a lot of trouble. He was sort of, one year he came to school one year, very clean cut guy, became class president, and then the next year he came back with a mohawk, and everybody was like, "Whoa!" Uh, he looked really good in a mohawk, and so like he looked like Travis Bickle. We all talked about that. Uh,
Hmm.
so he that character's essentially based on him in a lot of ways. And I interviewed him in Salt Lake, and we talk about it. But also, then I've had a lot of friends that died. There was also a good friend of mine when I was still in high school. Next door neighbor who's named Robbie Wilson, who died he died in his house from this. His mom left the car on the garage and killed everybody. So it's more based on that experience.
Oh wow.
So, I mean, everybody has their like first brush with like death in their face, I think, like,
Hmm.
and unexpectedly. And, or at least maybe not everybody, but I did. And, of course it happened many times after that, but that was the first time. So like, I guess that's what I was thinking when I did it. So it's like, it's not like a friend of mine died in an apartment like that. That
Yeah.
specific exactly didn't happen, but like, I drew on experience from that
Yeah.
because I knew a lot of like symbolically in telling that story or in telling SLC Punk, there's a point where I felt like that character is going to move on. There's a class issue where like the rich kids get away with whatever they want, including like Stevo, and the poor kids like don't make it out, or if they do, like either they stay. Some of them did okay, but some of them like just didn't fare well at all. Like and I felt like that's a problem. So I mean, like the movie is by people like question my movie all the time like that, not understanding that it's a pretty nihilist point of view at the end of that movie, where Steve-O is able to flee to Harvard in the
Mm.
face of that. And in my imagination, I thought in my vengeful imagination when I was making the movie, I imagined him, and even the original monologue was different, that he went to Harvard to become a lawyer so he could come back and bust the kids that killed his friend. Because like his friend is killed. Like he doesn't OD because he wants to take painkillers.
Yeah.
He Somebody slips him a roofie. Like that it's illegal. That's a homicide. It could be just third degree, but it's not. You can't just give somebody say these are aspirin and they're Percocet.
Hmm.
That's illegal. And then if they die from
Pretty
it,
fucked up. Yeah.
you've killed somebody. So because they're all rich kids, no one ever even talked about that, and a lot of people don't. So like, and I felt like I'd seen that kind of injustice before, and I felt like, and it never came to fruition. But like that was kind of part of it too. I thought that like maybe that he would become a lawyer to go, come back and get justice for Bob.
Man. Okay. That would see that's so funny because so when I watched, I mean, that's one thing I think adds so much tragedy to it was, he's straight edge. And then what kills him, of course, is the drug OD.
I
And
mean,
when
he's straight except he drinks and he smokes.
right, I guess yeah, but no, yeah, exactly. No
Yeah,
hard.
but like he didn't do drugs. No,
Yeah.
I made that was on purpose, and like he and I just thought like yeah, those kids passing around Percocet and not saying what it was, and then
Mm.
he wouldn't have taken it if he knew what it was.
Right. And in the scene, aren't they fucked up and isn't he fucked up? Like aren't they
Yeah,
both kind of like
they're
just
all
like
drunk. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So like I mean like yeah, so I mean like it's an accident, but like it's still like
mhm.
somebody's responsible for that accident.
Yeah, yeah. Man, and that's why and I really like the ending especially because when I was again young by the time I was watching it, it was like this like almost like wake up call to where it's kind of shake because it has that ending to like, yeah, what are you really gonna do? Right? Like there's no gonna be no factual future if you care about yourself long haul, staying, a squatter punk or
Rusty? Yeah,
whatever.
no, it's like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so it made sense. And it was like, okay, you he's going to better his life. And then I interpret it as he was going to infiltrate the system a bit, right? Like he's going to go in there and start.
Absolutely, that was sort of like what I in the end, like I realized that I can't. I was if I were to get into that whole point where I'm like, well, let's talk about who killed Bob. Then I was opening up a whole can of worms, and then I need to make I had to keep going for another hour because
Mhm.
like people are like, whoa, 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 you can't stop here. If I even brought it up. So I realized, no, I mean, like if I get into that, I mean, this happens all the time. Kids do stupid things, and they end up, getting, like a lot of my friends, like I had friends who got killed driving. We used to have kegs in the canyons in Utah. They're
Mhm.
really dangerous. We would go way up in the canyon and we'd get a keg and we'd drink it and kids would drive back. And a lot of times, more than once, kids would get killed driving back down
Yeah.
in those cars. Like they'd go over a cliff or they'd run into another car. Like these kids died. So like shit happened. And then I thought like, well, then at least Steve-O would go become a lawyer. And then I imagined him becoming like a public defender, like defending lost causes and people who are underrepresented. And because a lot of people said, oh, he's become a lawyer, so he's just a sellout. I'm like, well, depending on what kind of lawyer. I mean, if you get in trouble, your best friend is your fucking lawyer. Like if
Yeah.
you're wrongly accused of something and you have no money, you need a good lawyer. And so like maybe Steve-O could become that, and then like then suddenly, oh, that lawyer's not like a piece of shit. That lawyer's gonna save my ass, hopefully, right? So like I thought, and then I thought that he is a with sort of a punk ethos would be able to go in and like stir shit up and represent people who would never get representation of any quality, and that he would be able to, clear some people, fight for people that aren't fought for, that get caught up in our system, which
Mhm.
is an antithetical. I mean, like if the system, if you get caught up in the system can steamroll you, and who's going to stop that? So I kind of felt like that if that's kind of a punk thing to do. His other friend went to like save rainforests.
Yeah, botany.
Yeah, so Mike, yeah, so like so then he could like he maybe something he could do something in this area. You know,
Yeah.
uh I mean like again I didn't spell it out because I felt like that would be too didactic and I don't like to do
Hmm.
that. Because also life isn't fair, so I don't like to lean into like happy endings too much. But like I felt like maybe he could. That's what I thought he was going to do. And in fact, in the sequel that I had written, that it was going to be Steve-O about Steve-O, it was going to be about him doing stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. See, and that I like a happy ending by any means. One of the most realist endings I felt, and I think it was very great because that's exactly how I interpret it. To where it was like, and he kind of says that, right? You're gonna be able to cause way more activism being in the system than just going to concerts or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah, he says I could do more damage in the system than outside the system. I mean, it's
yeah.
an old sort of. Some people call it a cop out, but like it depends on what you do. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think that if you went and become a public defender and you got a really good education and you could really do it well, and
Hmm.
then you didn't get rich off it, you just went and like represented guys that were getting fucked over.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty good cause, right? Like that's and it remains rebellious.
It absolutely does, and and you can't shake away from the reality that we are living in, which also is what I think. That's why, like, when I was that young too, watching it, it made such a wake up call. Where I was like, well, shit. Like, it was right around that time I was having to pick colleges and all that shit. Uh,
Yeah.
and so yeah, touching back on that song too, to where the lyrics to the song seem to match up so perfectly to where, you know, generation that song's about, having fun, just being a teenager, but it has this like, it still Kiss Me Deadly and the way that ends out with it too. It was just
Well, there's a tragedy to the song, definitely, about lost youth. I guess. I didn't think too much about the lyrics though. I don't like to match lyrics too directly with what's going on. But then, like inadvertently, it keeps happening, right? And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that
yeah.
because I also put a Minor Threat song right after they get that. There's a scene where they get like Steve-O yells at Bob about like calling the place home, and he gets
Yeah.
really mad at him. that wasn't in the script. I just wanted to get Steve. I wanted Matthew to do a scene where he got very angry at Michael. So that the very next scene where I shot was him being dead, so that his emotion would be all fucked up. So just to help him get to where he needed to be for the end scene. Um, and I thought like I needed that scene where like there's some place where they have a disagreement. And so at the end of that scene, I play "Look Back and Laugh" by Minor Threat. I use that song, and then listening to the lyrics after the movie even came out, I was like, "This is like, it's about friends and not like stop. It's about like losing a friendship." So,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I didn't even fucking listen to it. I didn't even like pay attention to the lyrics. I just liked the energy of the song. So like
Man.
I didn't equate it till afterwards. I was like, whoa, this song actually is talking a little bit very much about walking away from a friend, like losing a friendship,
Man. Okay. See, that's and I
which was weird.
imagine.
Like that, like I can't believe that because like I just didn't pay it. I don't know why I didn't pay attention. Maybe it's because I had a different song there, um, and I
Mhm.
needed to switch it out for something else. And I had and Ian like I ended up talking to Ian for like hours to
Of
explain the
Minor Threat
SLC
and
Punk.
Fugazi, yeah.
Yeah, to let me use the song, to let me use his song, and then he didn't charge, but
He
he
didn't.
didn't. They had never really allowed people had gone to him to use music before in his movies, in their movies, but he didn't ever say yes, not, because he wanted to. He didn't want us to make fun of it. But then when I told him and I read the script to him and I went over the script and he finally said like, look, as long as the music is right, he eventually just said like he gave me the okay. Like I convinced him that it was okay.
Oh man, that's really cool too. And I always imagined that it was probably very purposeful to why you put those songs in there because like you said, the lyrics I thought seemed to match up very well. Like I think there's also the Fear song as well, like right when it goes into kind of the um being in school stuff as well. Again, with Kiss Me Deadly. So, but I guess maybe that's subconsciously a little bit. You're just put happen to go through there.
Yeah.
Man. How long did it take you to write the full script for the movie? And how, like, I guess when
Well,
you
the
get it.
draft until the draft we were working with until I changed it to add the Mark character, um,
Mhm.
the Till Schreiber character. Well, it took 3 days to write. And then
Okay.
I needed money to make the movie, and they said, "Listen, you get money out of Germany if you get Till Schweiger, who was very big in Germany." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll write something for that guy because there was a guy in our scene that was like crazy, like and I thought that Till Schweiger could play this guy." So
The movie on there, that whole, yeah.
yeah. When they're talking, when they steal the car and all that stuff, like that whole
Mhm.
thing, right? Like, that was written so that I could get Till Schreiber in my movie, and boy, he was great. He was so much fun to work with and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, dude. And so that's going on that scene real quick. Just when they dump the car in, it floats. Did that real life inspiration, or how did that come about? That's one of the funniest scenes.
I
Um,
mean, it's inspired by like us, like us doing crazy shit like that. But like the car, we needed to put divers out there and flotation devices to keep that car not from sinking.
okay.
Otherwise, it would have sank. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean like growing up in SLC though, did people ever like actually drop a car into the
I don't know. I know that is the myth that nothing sinks in that.
mhm.
Like you go out there and I mean, if you dare to deal with the smell and the garbage in that lake,
Yeah.
you try to float in it, you'll float in it. You don't sink because it's so salty. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
But I don't remember anybody. Maybe people. I'm sure people dump everything in that lake. So yeah, I'm sure somebody dumped a car, tried to hide a car in there. Yeah.
Um Man, okay. What else do I have on? And so did you by doing this, it sounds like did you get to actually become friends with a lot of these band members? Like that's how you became friends with from Generation X and Minor Threat. Like did this help
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I became friends with more like Blag Dahlia, and Durwood and a
Yeah.
bunch of other people because of the movie. Yeah, definitely.
Fuck yeah.
And I was sort of before that was like I was a kid. I looked up to those bands. I was like, and then next thing you know, I was like friends with them. So
Friends with
that
them.
was crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool too. What was I just about to ask on? Oh yeah, and that's what how I guess difficult was it from because did you ever think about making it into a book first and then trying to see it? But you just went right with script to like movie projects and stuff, right? Like
Yeah, I mean, I know I never had any idea of writing a book out of it. I was a filmmaker. I started making movies when I was 21. My first movie was a very, very D movie called Witchcraft 4. And I just kept rolling into one movie a year. I had that SLC Punk was my seventh movie. Honestly, thought
really?
I wrote it. Okay, so I'd done this movie called River Made to Drown In. Michael Imperioli was in it, and we were going to do a movie together that he had been involved with writing called Anarchy in NYC. And I was
Ooh,
attached to it, and we'd gone around and around, and then things didn't work out. And Spike Lee ended up making it, and they changed it to Summer of Sam. And I wanted to, and I said, well, I want to still make a punk movie. So then I just
yeah,
quickly wrote SLC Punk, based a little bit on a script that I was shopping around called Theodore and the Impenetrable Suit of Armor. And the structure, I wanted to do this unreliable narrator that would sort of, and use this experiment. Like, I kept thinking I would tell the story the way that like you worked Windows on a computer where you snap on a window, it opens up and it gives you more stuff and you more stuff to open up and go to another file and that opens up more and then you can close down all the files. I felt like that was the way that the story was told. Like Steve-O would be talking about something Bob told him, and then Bob would tell him something that Sean told him, and like, and then he would close it all back up, and then it would be back to Steve-O. So
yeah,
so none of the narrators are very reliable. Um, so I made that movie thinking there's no way anyone's going to buy this movie or see this movie or watch it because there's no component of genre to it. There's no element
mhm,
of genre to it. So I mean, there's not even really a plot. There's just vignettes. Eventually, there becomes a plot, but not, like it takes a while to get there. Um, so when I took it to Cannes, Sony Classics bought it, and I really made the movie, and I was thought to myself, the audience for this movie is, I think, should be. I thought I was going to talk to older people who didn't understand who punks were. Because I was going to, I'm a film festival filmmaker, so all those movies I made before that had gone to film festivals,
yeah,
and they're all older people going to those festivals. So like older than me, much older, and they also thought that punks were guys that were on subways that had switchblades and would assault people. And I was like, no, 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 no. And so I said, so when I made the movie, I was thinking, I'm making this for festival audiences. This will go to festivals, and the older people will watch it and go, "Oh, that's why I painted it with broad strokes,
hmm,
rather than be." It was a very as broad as possible to say, "Hold your hand," have the guy narrate it, and say, "Look, old people, this is what we were. We're just nerds in a basement. Here's what we do." Like we're we fall in love, we get into trouble, we have this sort of idea about, we're not hippies, but we're like our own thing. And
yeah,
when I presented it at Cannes, that's what I said. I said, this movie is to show you idiots what we were, what your kids were doing, because they weren't like, assaulting people on subways. They were just, living their life just the way you went to your fucking Woodstock and all that. We did our
right.
thing. Okay. So like, that's what I literally said at the premiere at Cannes. And Sony Classic said, we want that movie. And I had
Yeah,
no idea that punks one day would ever see this movie. And if I did, when I realized that they might, I was like, oh no, this is going to be a disaster because punks
um,
don't like being told what their scene is. Like,
well, I mean, it was so honest. Like to me, growing up, like that was first of all, there was like there's not really many punk. There was like three. It's funny you mentioned Summer of Sam because that was, and that's not even punk, but it was just because
it
the
was
dude
more when
was a
it
punk.
before, but then, yeah, but
Yeah,
they wanted to
CBGB
make it
was in it.
bigger and they changed it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe CBGB's was in it and stuff like that. And yeah, Chris Brunelli, he was the guy, Chrissy from Sopranos, which was cool. And
That's
then there was
Michael Imperioli. Yeah.
yeah, I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Italian. You have an Italian name too.
Yeah.
But and then Sid and Nancy was one. Um, which is funny. I used to be such a big Sex Pistols fan. Your movie kind of messed that up for me for a little while because it became like a trend around like, yeah, if you saw Union Jack, they were not was a
Yeah,
poser, right?
yeah, the Polonese.
Uh,
Anarchy in the UK.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
that was just it. There was like no other like real punk movies, and I think you could tell it was made by a punk because everything you went down was so like even in like our little scene to where like how you said the heavy metal dudes would beat the crap out of the punks would not really
yeah,
have anyone like that's because it is for what I've noticed most punks were critical thinker kind of nerdy like misfits,
yeah,
you know? Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, you ended up with some boneheads showing up um, in the scene. I addressed that, but like like in the '80s, I mean, like oh my God, I mean, like I would characterize most of what happened in the punk scene in the '80s, rather than just kids getting in trouble, like a lot of trouble,
Mhm.
a lot of trouble. But I would characterize much of it as just being funny. It was funny.
Mhm.
Like what, like when they say, why the blue hair? I remember somebody asked me, and actually a few people got very mad that I said it. Um, to this day, they're like, SLC Punk's terrible. I heard what you said. You're a fucking asshole. Why would you say? And some publicist said to me like, so what is punk to you? Is it about the color? It's a very colorful movie. Is punk rock about color? And I said, yeah, it's about color. That's what I said. Yeah, that's right. It's about color. Yeah. And I
Mhm.
was joking and I was being sarcastic. And I went into this PR thing and it was released. Even recently, some guy online was saying, "You said punk was about color. It was the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. You spit all over our scene." I was like, "Dude, I was fucking joking, man. I mean, like, I was 28 years old. I was just somebody asked me a stupid question, and because like to me, like, and I said, why are you taking this so seriously? Like, I mean, because punk was all my punk friends, and even like some of the bands like Blag and all those guys, like, like a lot of times it's just funny. Like we're just like goofing around, we're kind of it's satirical. Like
Yeah.
kill the poor is they don't really mean. He's not
No,
saying kill
no.
the poor.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I guess like there's a seriousness to it too. I mean, but like one of my friends would buy clothes from thrift stores and then he would tear the labels off it because he didn't want to be a billboard for anybody. So like there was that kind of
Mhm.
I don't know, but I mean but like again like some of the more outrageous haircuts and stuff there was kind of based on just being funny and to kind of like piss people off, which it
Yeah.
did more then than it would now. Like in the '80s, if you had like a really big blue mohawk in Utah, that would definitely turn heads and you might even get arrested. Like, for like just
Yeah.
they would try to think of something you did wrong.
Those
Uh,
boys look suspicious.
yeah, I mean, like, nobody looked like so, and you were doing it just to get a rise out of people.
Hmm.
Like you weren't like so. So in the scene when she's saying you guys are wearing a uniform,
That was
like
true.
he
Yeah.
he didn't want to say anything like he's trying to you know be get a good impression with this girlie because he's into her, but I mean there is an answer to that. It's like, well, a lot of what we wear is we're just goofing off, like we're not trying. I mean, like we take our battle jacket seriously. I guess they did, especially they became more and more serious, but originally like it was just trying to look funny, like buy funny clothes and wear them,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember at a Rocky Horror Picture Show, some guy just thought it'd be hysterical to take the biggest nail you ever saw and put it through his cheek, and he just right there and like that in the bathroom at
Yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show and went like straight through it. I was like, okay, let's go, and they were all. I mean, it was funny. We were laughing and stuff.
There's so much humor in punk too. Like I was thinking Reagan Youth as well. Like and it's funny, some people still don't get it. And that's why your by the way, your social media pages are so funny. Like you'll put the funniest like comments and stuff. And then I like to see you actually interact with the people too.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, oh man, look at it. Like there was a joke recently to where someone got mad and it was like an obvious math joke. It was like people
Oh,
today,
they were really mad at me for getting the year wrong of how old people were when I was like just making a joke.
like
They're,
you don't get it, you don't get it,
yeah, he's like saying, "I'm blocking this page. How I can't deal with this stupidity." I'm like, dude, I know the math. It's clearly a meme that's been around forever about like
Yeah.
getting math wrong. Yeah,
Yeah. And so
yeah.
I can't imagine. So I want to ask that too, especially like when you're being like an artist, making films. What's it like when people do interpret what you make, not how you wanted them to interpret it, and then getting like criticized about that too? Like, how do you go and like, how do you deal
Well,
with
I mean, if people don't understand my point of view, then maybe I didn't do such a good job. Also, I don't want to like blame. You know what I mean? Like I got to take responsibility for my own work.
it?
And sometimes like it is unclear at certain points. There's a lot of ambiguity in that movie. And every movie I make, sometimes I maybe too ambiguous, sometimes just bad filmmaking. But I mean, at a certain point, like with SLC Punk or any movie you make, like, but you sort of have to let it go and let people own it in the way that they want to own it. Like so whatever it means, they're right. I mean, like because it means to them. So it's a question of applicability. So like they how to if that movie has applicability to their lives in some way, then they're not wrong, right? Like it's okay. Like it's not for me to dictate how somebody receives information. I can put it out there, and if I'm going to choose to be ambiguous about it, then I have to allow that do what ambiguity does, which is people read into it and make it whatever they want to make it,
Yeah.
and that's okay, that's fine. But that's what happens as an artist when you include ambiguity in your work. People
Yeah.
will fill that question with answers.
Right. Steve-O's a sellout, all that stuff, that's just why I think it's one of the best movie fucking
They
endings
they can
ever.
make that presumption if they want. Like that's okay. Like
Yeah, yeah, and exactly, you get to interpret like, no, he's obviously has his roots. You can tell, where Steve-O's heart is in my mind. So exactly like you think,
yeah,
like
I mean, if you want to
introduce.
say that he's a sellout because that's how you feel that you think maybe you might have sold out, or I don't know, like Steve-O didn't say I'm selling out. His
Mhm.
dad said that. He
Yeah,
said I'm going to go fuck shit up
yeah,
as a lawyer. That's what he says.
yeah, and he calls himself a poser in a joking
But
manner,
that's
right?
we
Yeah.
that like I always felt like the moment you realize that when I was a kid, I said like the moment you realize that we all realize that we're all posers is the
Hmm.
moment that we're actually maybe kind of becoming punk. Is that like we're full of shit. Like if you can't see that your own shit is bullshit, like at some point, then you can't call other people, you can't call them on their shit. Like, because everybody to an extent is a poser. Like I mean, you put on your mask. You're not naked when you go out. You put clothes on. I don't know. Like I had an argument with a guy when we showed this movie. We premiered it in Los Angeles after Sundance. There was a band called Freebird. There was a punk band. They all had long hair. They were kind of hippie guys, and they were a punk band. And I didn't ask them to play, but I was asked to introduce them. So I was on stage. I was
Yeah.
about to introduce them after the show, and they were mad. The lead singer was mad at me. He said, like, your movie made fun of punk rock, and we take this stuff seriously, man. We take this shit seriously, and you just mocked us.
I mean, I got something to say, you know? What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
And I was like, oh, okay. He said, because like, he said like we're posers. And I'm like, you are a poser. We're all posers. Like whatever. He got mad at me. So I said, like, you know what? I asked Blag. He was there. I said, Blag, why don't you introduce the
Jeez.
band? So Blag gets up there and he's like, so yeah. So after watching this poser movie, we're gonna have a real punk band come on and show you what fucking punk rock's all about. Here comes Free Turd, and like they wouldn't play because he said that, and I
Yeah.
was like, you just got
Fuck
like
yeah, Blag.
full on punk rock, perfect introduction. You call yourself a punk band, and Black went up there and roasted you a little bit. That's how
Yeah.
it go. That's you won. Go on stage now and be like, thank you, Blag. Fuck off, and you
Yeah.
play right, and you call Blag a piece of shit, and then you play. I did. I so like that. So some people will have a very different point of view about
Yeah.
the seriousness of punk rock.
That's what I was gonna say. They take it a little too serious
I mean,
sometimes.
it's up to
Like,
them if they want to. I mean, I'm not going to judge, but I get that time. I was like, this guy was so mad. Like he was like, you know, like we're serious. We don't think about being posers. I'm like, dude, calm down, man. Like, so like, yeah. And then like Black, who is like undeniably a punk rocker and was certainly back in 99. It's like that the Dwarves are a serious punk band.
yeah.
If you consider punk music, if you're talking about serious bands,
Oh yeah.
in terms of like people taking them as like a famous punk band. And here comes Black Dahlia to introduce you, and he makes fun of you, which he does with every band he's ever introduced.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to be serious about it. He's going to say like, here comes a bunch of like, hippies, like, pretend to clap, like here they are, they're fucking assholes. Every one of them owes me money, like, whatever, like, cover your drinks, girls, like whatever he's going to say, he's going to make fun of whoever's coming up next, right? So he did that to them to free Bird, and they were so insulted they left, and I was like, I mean, I don't like to say what's punk or not, but that's a pretty unpunk thing to do.
Yeah.
Like
Taking this.
I would have been more impressed if they came out and they said, "Yeah, fuck you," and by the way, fuck that movie, and then played. I would be like, "Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, hey, fuck that movie." I would have much more respect for them if they
Yeah.
stayed and played and opened up by saying, "I just want to say this movie that we just saw sucks. You suck, Merendino. Black, you suck. You're all fucking posers." And then play.
Mhm.
If that's what you think, then do it.
Yeah.
Instead, they left in a because their artistic integrity was impeded upon, or whatever, like was put upon, or where they were there, it was insulted. I don't even like. What do you do? You're not a punk fucking band. I mean, and I hate gatekeeping, but come on, man. Like I don't even understand that, right? I just don't get it. But that's what happens sometimes.
Man, that's exactly. I would have taken that with stride too. I mean, Black Dahlia, the Dwarves, they even crashed out the Sub Pop studio one time. I found out that was actually not a rumor. Like he actually did that. Like, yeah, talk about punk as fuck. My
Yeah,
opinion again.
yeah.
Yeah. um, man,
And
so
they had a legend there introducing them, and they wouldn't play because he insulted their integrity. I was
oh
like, "Are you guys
geez.
sure you're in this scene? Like, that's Black Dahlia doing that."
Yeah.
But who also Blag, if you asked about SLC Punk, he'd be like, "Ah, it's for posers." He would just, he's like, he's Blag.
Yeah.
He's
I mean,
like,
there were so many things in that movie too, which I liked about it because it actually helped like it would get played on, I think, I forget what channels, like on cable and stuff, people would see it, and it would kind of help people get interested in what punk scene was and maybe, anarchy and like open their minds a little bit and stuff, which was cool. And so I found it super refreshing and a great thing to have at the time.
I mean, okay, I guess there's a lot of drawbacks to that movie in terms of like it's wrong about anarchy. Like it doesn't discuss like Emma or any of the original anarchists. Steve-O doesn't quite understand it. Again, I was being really broad, so I guess like I kind of accidentally fell into that because if I was really making a real punk movie, I wouldn't even talk about anarchy. I would have if I thought it was for punks, I would have it would have been more like Repo Man or something. This would have been like the attitude of punk without ever referring to punk. Like it would just be like Repo Man, a guy becomes a Repo Man, and it's totally punk rock. But uh what was I gonna say though? But it has become like it did become and continues to become like an entry point, a gateway to this horrible like sort of genre, this evil thing. Yeah, it's become a gateway, I think, and I'm okay with that. Like because then people evolve, and then sometimes when people who said like I used to love that movie, but then I realized it was for posers. There's this usual this is sometimes there's this arc with that movie where people are like they're younger, they saw the movie, it got them interested in punk, so they liked it, but then they realize it's for posers, and this is the real punk shit, and then they get into that stuff, and then later on as they get older, they realize, no wait, but SLC Punk was okay, so like like they evolve on that, like depending on where they are in their life. I've been told that by people. It's why I'm making this documentary. I'm trying to figure out
Yeah.
where people like came into that and how it becomes a cult movie and why did you like it? Why did you end up hating it? Why did you end up liking it again? Why did you hate it from the start? I don't care. Like, but I just want to talk to people that and understand the nature of cult movies and how that became a cult movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said too, I think at some point we're all posers, right? To like once you start realizing you're also at some way a poser,
Yeah.
like it's that's I guess maybe it's part of it is growing up too, but
I
like
mean, I am a big fan of self-deprecation. I think that punk was always a little self-deprecating. Like, I mean, even when Fear in the 70s would like go on stage and just berate their audience and get them really angry,
yeah.
like really, really angry. They'd also say like the worst things about themselves too. Like, they weren't serious. They were fucking around. Like the whole idea is you're getting emotions up. It's
Mhm.
like a lot of people don't understand. Like, from Andy Kaufman was sort of the ultimate punk comic. Uh, do you know who he is?
I don't know the material well. No.
Do you have to see like Man on the Moon is a movie about him?
Jim Carrey played him, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, like, if you ever like look up how his like humor is just totally punk rock because it's sort of Dadaist. It
Hmm.
doesn't really. It's like based on repetition or like the whole thing where he pretended to be a wrestler and only fight women. Like it was not like and people thought he was serious. Like he was just joking. Like the whole thing was funny. Like it was all, but like it was punk rock. Like he's Andy Kaufman's like we think of him. I thought of him as a punk rock musician. I mean, sorry, comedian. Yeah,
Yeah.
check him out more. He's fucking that guy's awesome.
Well, I will. I will.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, and this kind of going around way because I want to be respectful of your time. The scene with the acid, you probably get this one so much because it's one of the biggest scenes. Did that happen? How did you figure that thing out? Because that scene kind of messed me up too. Like it was like scary. Like, oh, I better
Well,
take
it's I did a little bit of acid. Mostly I did mushrooms, and I guess it's an amalgamation of different trips that I've had. Mushroom trips when I was in high school that I had.
with the
Uh,
sprinklers, how it hit it, and like you can get messed up
oh,
that
that scene.
like
Oh, when it
yeah,
soaks into his pocket.
yeah,
I thought you meant like the scene in the thing. Oh no, when Sean runs through the sprinklers and it soaks into his leg. That
yeah.
was a that was a story that was floating around Utah. It was told to me by John, um, John
Eddie,
Poss,
John. Yeah, okay.
who becomes John the Mod. Um, and there was I don't know if it was true or not. Some people say it was true, but then like then I go around and I keep hearing that story told in other scenes. So maybe it was sort of an urban myth a little bit too. But I only heard that story third hand, the way that Steve-O hears it.
Okay.
Like he didn't in the movie, he hears it third hand. Bob tells him
Right.
that.
Right.
And Bob's
Acid.
crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
So like, you got to take that story with a grain of salt if you think about it, right? Because it's like Bob is telling Steve-O this crazy story about Sean, right? And Steve, and he's like also talking about Napoleon and like what
Mhm.
he's like, and he's just fucking going off and Steve was laughing at him, right? So
Right. Right.
like so if you think about it from that point of view, like exactly how true is that story is dependent upon, like Steve-O's reaction, which is like he barely believes it. And then later on, he sees Sean, and Sean kind of confirms that his mother didn't like him, but like, there's no real. It remains like a myth in the movie because it's told to Steve-O. It's unreliable. It comes from an unreliable source. This is a recollection of Bob's,
Yeah.
who's like a little crazy.
So, did you have a friend that was like Sean?
There's a guy he died, but yeah, I mean he was my friend. Everyone knows him, Sean. It's sort of based on that. I certainly got his signature to talk about it.
Hmm.
Um, but it was John Poss told me the story of this guy. So John the Mod told me the same way he told me. Like, I went over to his house and he was sitting there and he thought he was like there was water everywhere. That's why he was sitting on a chair like that. This was all told to me by a guy named John Poss, who's represented in the movie as John the Mod.
John the Mod. Is
Yeah,
he the John that's like you said, Eddie and John as your
yeah,
friend? Living?
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We
Yeah.
went to school. We were going to school together. Yeah. So and he also I recently interviewed him and yeah, he was the one who told me that story about Sean. And then later on, I heard that Sean was talking to people and he was like, it's bullshit. It was only 3 hits of acid. It wasn't 100 hits of acid. Like, I don't know. There was some controversy in town about me misrepresenting what happened there. Like, I was like, it's a story I heard from John. Go tell John, you know, and
Yeah.
then and then people were like saying like, well, you didn't get rights from people. I'm like, well, actually we did. And we have all these signatures. We had to, because whenever you make a movie, you have an insurance company that comes in and reads the script and says, okay, you need either signatures from all these things or change it. So,
Okay.
so like then they go out and we get all signatures to satisfy the insurance company. They're called errors and omissions. So all that stuff had to be verified before I could shoot a thing. So it was all,
Man.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. When you make a movie, you have to have errors and omissions. And especially like if it's based on a true story, they go out and they're like, they're hard on you. Like they're like, like you have to get everyone has to sign stuff.
Okay. So you weren't able to just write this thing. It was fictional and just like personally know it's like you in there and stuff, or
I mean, like,
Mhm.
since it's my point of view and I did live there and I have certain experiences, I can talk about whatever I want in a
Yeah.
book and stuff, but still errors and omissions, because if it's firsthand experience
Yeah.
and these are the stories that I heard and, like whatever, then I'm allowed to talk about that stuff. Just like you can write an article about stuff like that, right? If you
Yeah.
experienced it.
It's your
But,
perspective.
those guys are very, whoa. Oh, I gotta hold on. That's okay. But like when you're making a movie, no one wants to take any risks, so it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
like errors and omissions comes, and they say like, you got to get everyone signing off on it, like just to, in case you misrepresent somebody or they not like what you're saying or whatever. And I'm like, I don't. That's fine. I don't want to make anybody angry. And they did. They found Sean. They got him to sign later on. I guess he says that he wasn't happy, though he did go to the premiere. I saw him and he was like, "This movie's awesome." But then later on, he was a punker, so he's like, "I don't like it." Like, like I mean, like,
Yeah.
um,
Changes his mind later. Oh
yeah.
man.
And then like, because also like Steve-O's name, Bob and Steve-O are named for two very prominent punks in Salt Lake called Steve O'Reilly. It was Steve O'Reilly and Heroin Bob, and
Mhm.
they were guys I looked up to when I was a kid in Salt Lake. I mean, I was in high school and they were in college. And
Yeah.
I looked up to them and I thought these guys were awesome. And so when I wrote the script, the two best characters that I've ever written in my life, I named them after these two guys. It's not about them, but I named them after them, right? So like,
Yeah.
because the names are cool. And then when I went to make the movie, I was going to change their names, but the producer's like, whoa, 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 those are cool names. Let's go
Yeah.
see if we can get their rights. One of them is Stephen Egerton, who's the guitarist for the Descendants. He
Oh,
was
sweet.
so he read the script and had to sign off to say like, okay, I realize it's not about me, but you're using my name, like
Holy shit.
you're
Okay.
referencing my name, but it's a fictional story. It's not about me. It's just the name is about me. So he had to sign off. So so like he was fine, and they said they found Bob, and I saw the signatures and stuff. So like, otherwise I would have changed the names. I would have called them something else. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why it's silly to a point, I think.
it's
But
just when I was writing the script, I was like, it's about Salt Lake. So,
even just yeah.
two punks, Heroin Bob and Steve-O, because that's when I thought about Salt Lake punk, I thought everyone does. Like, they're from the Massacre guys. There's a band from Salt Lake from the period. They're like, they were the two big punks at that time in that scene. So
Yeah.
I named it after them. The kid that I was when I was making the movie, I was like, I was a little naive, but then when we got to Salt Lake, I was like, I realized I have to change these names because it's not about them. And there are people, again, the producers were like, well, we can get their signatures. So that's what happened.
Man, that's so. I mean, this movie again. That's why I wanted to thank you for it. It changed my life in so many ways. Like even our little circle, because of that. Like people always wanted to make sure we carried things in our backpack because we didn't know if we have to run through the sprinklers. Be careful.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, the movie just it really like it hit me at the right time watching it. I thank you so much for making it. I still can watch it over and over. I shared it now with people I love and stuff. I mean, the ending again, I think is one of the greatest endings um ever for me, for my personal experience, right? Because it's like one of the movies I think that touches closest to home to how I grew up,
Right.
which is why I think this movie just really, really rocks, man. And then because of that, it introduced me to Generation X and a whole more plethora of things as well. So
Right. Well, thanks. Okay. Well, thanks for having me. And do you have any other? Did I?
I
Any
think
other
I
questions?
nipped it
I'm
all. I
happy
mean,
to.
you got on there just the I like the purposefulness of it. I think so. Was there anything? Oh, so well, I guess never mind. You kind of answered that. It was your friends that brought you into it? You found went to Hawaii. I think I got all the questions that I did want out of at least that piece, that scene of the song, of the movie, and how you came about. Very purposeful in how you did it. Oh yeah, I guess just real quick then, when you do write a script for a movie, like, do you have the ending at first in mind? Like even the memorial with like how what happens to Bob, or when you wrote the Salt Lake City Punk, did you have the ending first envisioned, or?
When I started, it depends on the script. Sometimes I do. And when I started writing that movie, I just said like I just started writing, and I for 3 days I just went straight,
Mhm.
and it kind of like as if like sometimes I'll write a script. It depends like on the script. Sometimes I'll take a long time to write it, and I'll plan it out, and I'll have an ending because I'll think of an ending first. But in this case, I was kind of mad because I lost that other movie,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm just gonna talk about Salt Lake, and I just started talking about what I would like to see next, then what I would like to see, and then it just kind of took over emotionally, like as if I was watching the movie, and I was like, oh God, I know, I see what's coming here. Bob's gonna die, and that happened.
Okay.
You know, like so, it evolved.
Just
I didn't even like plot it out. I just was writing dialogue and script and scenarios and scenes, and just I was writing it, and then like 3 days later, I was done, and like so, like the stuff came up organically, as if I was like like I was watching the movie.
okay.
And like so like if I was sitting in a movie theater and you say to yourself, what would you like to see next happen? Like, when you're watching a movie and then like I have control, so I would write what happens next. And say, okay, well that happened. Well, now what should happen? Oh, then this should happen. Oh, then this should happen. And then the logical for me conclusion was that Bob died because I'm very unkind to my characters in my
Hmm.
movie. So I killed one of the lead characters. I just it just came to that. Like it just came to that. That it seemed logical to end up there, where they're going to have a major. Steve-O was going to have to confront life really hard, and so it was just logical that that's where I went.
Man, I like that. So it all sounds like, so you kind of wrote it and just it just all kind of came to you at once, like in like a moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been telling those stories for years, but before that, but I mean, like oh yeah, that's the time when we were, like when we went to Wyoming, and that those guys told my friend that they thought that Nazis were okay. Like I told
Oh
those stories
yeah.
before. Yeah, I've been telling those stories. Like,
And that was great too with the 666 on his
yeah,
there.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was so funny. I love that. I want to spend your time, let you go. Quick last question, promise. I'm like a Mr. Lucky coming back with like a little question. All right, at the end, Steve-O meets the girl, right? Who tells them, "Hey, you're dressed like a punk, uniform, all that." That kind of helps with everything ending. Was that a real girlfriend you had? Like, was that part real?
Yeah, but it was in Italy, and
Oh,
she, an Italian girl. She didn't understand why I was dressing so funny.
okay, okay.
So she's like, but this not it's like it's not important. You like have a uniform. Inside is the rebellion. Like,
Okay.
I was like, yeah, and I was smitten. So I
So nothing long term with that girl then. From it was just kind of a or
2 years.
2 years. Okay, sorry I touched the. I'm curious because I was like, oh, so much of I want to
Yeah,
see how things line
two
up with that.
years.
So
But then I came back to Utah and I started dating a punker. Not Utah, to LA. When I moved to LA after I went to Italy, I moved to LA. I started dating a punker. We
okay,
were together for 7, 8 years. She didn't judge that shit. She understood like it was just funny.
love it, love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Then I'll just leave it to you. Anything else you think that you'd want to add to talk about with that last scene there with the music and Steve having the shaved, the head and all that?
I don't know. No, I don't think I can't think of anything like that. I feel like I've covered it pretty well.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, then I'll leave it at that. And thank
Okay.
you again so much for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let me end this here.